Hi everyone, I'm Ellen, working for the diocese. I'm sure you've seen my face many times before. I'm here with Father Dan at the Ignite conference. Father Dan, do you want to just start by sharing a little bit about yourself, where you're from, all that sort of stuff, the obvious probably?
Sure. Well, I'm Father Dan McCaughan. I'm a priest of the Archdiocese of Sydney. Been a priest for 6 years. Currently the administrator of a beautiful part of the world, St Patrick's, Sutherland, down in the Shire, as it's known. For all fans of Cronulla Sharks, that's sort of the region that I'm currently ministering in. Grew up in Sydney, born and raised in a beautiful part called Kensington. But I suppose the significant thing is I'm the eldest of 11 children. So I come from a big family.
The eldest too.
Eldest of 11.
Man, that would put pressure on you.
It does put pressure, and it depends on which perspective you look. I like to tell people I'm the original and the best, but I think my siblings would say, no, I'm the prototype, and then every successive model got better and better and better.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like that's true in my family as well, actually.
Yeah.
Cool. So 1 of 11, what kind of, how do you think that shaped you as an individual?
You cannot, I would never be able to quantify how much it shaped me. I mean, it's not only, big family is not only up to my eyeballs, it is my eyeballs. It is who I am. I'm not the person I am today without all my siblings and without my parents. Yeah. Big families are awesome because, yes, sure, they're rowdy, they're noisy, and they're a bit chaotic. But at the same time, there's also so much love. There's so many good times. Like God just gives you a whole bunch of friends that you journey through life with, and that you're bonded to, and you learn so many life skills too. You learn how to stick up for yourself. You certainly have to learn to share. You learn hostage negotiation. You learn how to deal with multiple personality types. It's incredible. You have the same mum and dad, but temperamentally it's just chalk and cheese.
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm one of 5. I'm middle child smack bang, so I totally understand what the different temperaments can do to shape you as an individual. Do you still spend a lot of time with your siblings?
Well, as much as I can. Look, I mean, in the sense that we're all either working or studying. I have one brother over in Boston, USA, living there, and I've had at different stages, different siblings living and working overseas. I've had a sister in South Africa, a couple of brothers working in the Philippines, and they're all back now. But what we do is every Sunday night, as many of us as possible, and if it can be all of us, that's great, excluding the one, of course, in Boston, go back to mum and dad's for Sunday dinner. And we all come back, and on that day, that's where spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, mates from uni are also all welcome. Mum doesn't care how many there are, as long as she knows in advance how many to cater for. And then we come. So what I'll do is on a Sunday, after I've finished all the masses and everything, and it's usually probably about 6:30 at night, I'll head home to Kenzo. And I'll walk into the living room, and sometimes there can be 30 plus people in there, just bang, it's just teeming with life. And then we sit around, we'll talk, we'll have meals, there's constant laughter, and then often it'll just naturally morph into like a sing along. Guys will bring out guitars and the drums, and we'll play. And I come from a musical home, so like someone will just start laying down some music, and then next thing you know, someone will start harmonizing, another person will start harmonizing, and there's been this beautiful sing along, and it's just it's a school like no other, and it grounds me. It grounds me. Yeah. So that one night a week back home with the folks is vital to I think maintaining balance and an equilibrium in the hurly-burly of parish life.
Yeah, I bet. Your parents must be superheroes.
Well, they're saints. Look, I can't canonise them, but the church has to. But in my book, they are.
And so they've always been welcoming, hospitable to all your friends. And
yeah, they are. Well, the dynamic of a big family is there's always room for one more. So, we've at different stages had lodgers live with us too. If they're prepared to be a little bit squished, they're more than welcome to be. So we've had a couple of fellas over the years live with our family and become part of the family, almost like an added sibling. Yeah. They fully participate in family life, and and then they get They even get the birthday treatment. Now, the birthday treatment in for my family
you'll
is...
have to tell us about that.
Okay. It is probably, I mean, aside from Sunday Mass and everything, it's probably the most sacred ritual we have at home. And it's something that's developed very organically.
Yeah.
It is that we all, whoever's birthday it is, and, of course, with that many kids, it's every few weeks we've got another birthday. You sit there at table, we have dinner, and then you sit at table, and then all the lights go dark. And it has to be pitch dark. It's a rule. Can't be a smidgen of light. You cannot see the hand in front of your face. And then out of the darkness comes the birthday cake. And, it's all lit up with candles. But what follows, and I've had people, be so moved by it. So we sing happy birthday, but to be perfectly frank, I've never heard happy birthday sung anywhere like where it gets sung in my family home. So there is just this eruption. When we sing it, we sung quite slowly, but with such force and in multiple part harmony as well. And you've got like 7 or 8 boys there singing, plus the girls who have even better voices than the boys. And then they sing, and it is just... Have you ever seen like the Welsh rugby crowd sing the anthem? I could say yes. It's that kind of passion and intensity. Nice. And it is in that moment of being sung happy birthday that is perhaps the single greatest expression we have at home to that individual child or person who's having a birthday, that you are one of us and you are loved. And then happy birthday goes straight into for he or she's a jolly good fellow. And there's a very particular way of singing it too. Once again, it's also sung in harmony. But when you get to the last part, for he's a jolly good fellow, and then it becomes a breath holding contest. So that last note of fellow goes on and on and on and on, and then till finally mum says we've had enough, so she'll wrap us up, and then and so say all of us, and then the place just goes absolutely bananas. And I'll tell you, even though I'm going on a fair bit about this, but one day the mum who lived next door came and knocked on our family home, and she said to my mum, she said, look, just want to let you know it's my birthday this week. And what would give me so much joy is if your family could come over to our home and sing me happy birthday the way you guys sing happy birthday to each other.
Wow.
And so that weekend, the family lock, stock and barrel went next door and we sang Mrs. Cunningham happy birthday like she was a member of our family. And it absolutely made her year.
Yeah.
Let alone her.
Good on her for having the courage to come and ask.
Yeah, we had a great relationship with them. They're a beautiful family. So.
That's really nice. I think what you touched on there about making sure that individual's just so loved and that's like their day, their night. I guess, do you have any, I think for a lot of our young people, they're going through school and there's this feeling of insignificance in this big wide world, and even maybe in their families, or the pressures of the older sibling who got a 96.8 blah, blah, blah in the HSC, or they're better at sport than me, or this, and comparison. It can be really hard to find where you fit, or... am I really loved as I am because I'm not as good as that person? I guess to go a bit deeper, how would you speak into that? Or in your own experience, in your own family of 11, how did you find significance in a world that says you're insignificant?
Sure. Well, look, I mean, even in a big family, and in some respects, one of the reasons like those happy birthday nights are so important is because the individual does need to be reassured that you're not a number, that you are, and the fact is, I mean, they're irreplaceable. Like if you took away any one of my siblings, and I actually can sort of speak somewhat a bit deeply into that. So we are 11, but we lost one. So my youngest sister died very suddenly back in 2003. She had a heart condition, a lung condition, and she also had one of the most beautiful, yes, it is a condition, but I honestly think it makes children even more beautiful than they are, and she had Down syndrome. Oh, wow. And that, anyway, we had her for 16 months, and long enough that you could make a real bond. But so when she went though, it was a massive shock, and that really brought home for me that, if any one of my siblings is taken away, the family is unquantifiably impoverished. Yeah. Because, that's when you realise that God only makes the same person once, and they bring something to a family, big family or small family, it doesn't matter. They bring something to their family that nobody else could possibly bring. And they love in a way that only they can love. And that's what forms the family, what forms the character. We were blessed in the sense that while we got all that affirmation from home, our parents were very conscious and anxious to show us that, look, the fuel of the love that they had for us came from an even deeper and more foundational love, which was the love of God. Yeah. And that they were anxious to show us that love, because they knew when we go out into the big wide world that, you sometimes can be all at sea. You're like a small boat in a big wild ocean. Yeah. And that you need to know that you have a love, that you are loved, that you are cherished, and there is someone who will be absolutely faithful to you come what may. And that's God. And I know each of my siblings and myself, we've all of us have had our own demons to battle with, our own insecurities and struggles. But, in the midst of it all, each of us in our own way is on a real journey with God. And it's knowing that we're not alone. And for anyone out there who may be feeling that they are alone or insignificant or unlovable, each of those things is a lie. Yeah. They're not insignificant, they're not alone, and they are certainly not unlovable. Yeah. Even if they feel, humanly speaking, that no one could love them. It's one of the great discoveries that you make, that when God shows you how much he loves you in that moment of vulnerability, of weakness and brokenness, nothing is more reassuring. Nothing is more of a concrete testimony to the fact that I am loved, is when I have that embrace from God, when you think no other human would have me. It's a very powerful place to be, and even in my own life, I've had to a certain degree experiences of that, and so it's the joys that I've had in my family life, they're just but a reflection of a much greater love, which is the love of God, which indeed fuels and informs that love that we have in family. I've always had faith. Like I've never had a moment where I've not believed in God's existence. Yeah. Like I've never had a moment where I think I'm an atheist or I'm an agnostic. I've never been there. But I've had some moments, like actually it's funny, when I was in my first year in the seminary, for reasons probably known only to God, like I'm really grateful he's given me a very sort of happy-go-lucky kind of temperament, around the place. But for whatever reason, in my first year in the seminary, it was like all the wheels were allowed to fall off. And sort of out of the blue, I got hit by a really savage depression. And like really dark, and to go from normality to down here almost overnight was, I talk about being all at sea. I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know. I just felt so oppressed by this. By this, it really was like this dark cloud that was just hanging over me the whole time. And I don't know if people can relate, but like you'd be walking around outside and it'd be a beautiful sunny day. You see the birds, flying about and people smiling and laughing, and you could appreciate that it was beautiful and something that you should rejoice in. And yet I felt like I had this invisible glass cone over me that kept me imprisoned, and I wasn't able to reach out and touch and experience that thing, even though I could objectively see it all. And in my head could say, yes, that is beautiful, but it never got down to here. And it became really, and as it got worse and worse, when you struggle really with depression, you can start having very dark thoughts, and things got quite black. And I got taught a prayer, which I still pray to this day, And I never prayed before, but the spiritual director in the seminary, who I was quite open with, and that's important to say, look, Father, I am struggling with depression. I'm having these temptations to do these things. And it's important that you verbalize it. Don't keep it to yourself. You got to tell somebody.
Yeah, that's good advice.
And just say, look, I am really battling and I don't know how to handle this. And I know one of the things he helped from a spiritual point of view, he said, well, look, he introduced me to this beautiful prayer called the Divine Mercy Chaplet, which is essentially this litany of trust in God. And it's acknowledgement that God loves me by entering pain, by entering suffering, by entering darkness and loving me in there, and through that prayer. And so I was just saying it over and over again. And of course it has that little aspiration, Jesus, I trust in you. Jesus, I trust in you. And I was literally just hanging on to that. Anyway, then it got to this point where it was getting so bad, I wasn't sure how much longer I was going to be able to hang on. And I went to bed one night in the seminary, and anyway, the alarm went off the next morning. And as anyone who struggles with depression, getting out of bed is no easy thing when you're depressed. Thank God I was in the seminary, and it was run a bit like it's a little bit like a military camp. So when the alarm goes, like you go, you get out and go. So I sort of rolled out of bed, landed sort of on all fours, and found myself face to face, just looking down at my little bedside table. And I found myself face to face with my crucifix, which I normally wear around my neck, and it was there. And I was just staring just at Jesus on the cross. And I really don't know how to describe it, but in that moment, it wasn't like anything physically happened to the image. It was just that little metal image of Jesus on a wooden cross. And yet, absolutely, I felt Christ speak to me through that image. And it was just these words, and it was clear as a bell. It was just, Dan, I am real and I love you. And in that moment, those words, I love you, the clouds lifted and have never come back. And what else has happened has been that every moment of my life now, when I'm walking around, I always have like a background awareness of the presence of God. It's not like a big, powerful thing that's in my face. It's very quiet, but it's always there. It's there. It's even in here, and it doesn't restrict my freedom. So I can still go and stuff up just like I did before. It's not like I'm so aware of God that I can only do the right thing. I just float. I levitate. I'm like a nun, that doesn't walk and just goes gliding past. No, that's not. It's not like that at all. I'm still totally free. I'm still totally free to be completely stupid and a sinner and everything like that. But there's that awareness there of God's presence that I never had before that thing. And I can honestly say now, I can really mean this, that if I had to have my life over again, I would take the depression again, because so much good came out of it that I could not have learnt, that I could not have treasured had I not had that experience.
Yeah.
And in so many ways, I realised, especially as a priest, you see that Christ is all about taking our evil, taking our mess, taking our struggles and flipping them on their head and drawing an even greater good out of them than would have been there had we never gone through them in the first place. I haven't just seen that in my life, but I've had the privilege of seeing that in so many other lives where dark places, sinful habits, all these kind of things that are really dragging people down, when they're given to God, instead of it becoming like the slippery dip down to hell, ends up becoming the step ladder to heaven. The very thing that would have dragged them down becomes their road out. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
I think so many things that you've just touched on have been so relevant to my life in the past few years. So it's really nice to hear what you're sharing. I think something that I really appreciate is what you're talking, the perspective of looking back and seeing I was exactly where I was supposed to be, and it seems almost backwards and so foreign, and because we learn God is love and we learn that God's always there for you, but our human perspective of what that means is very different to what God has planned for you, and yeah, it's really, I'm sure that for a lot of young people, it's really hard for them to hear that.
Yeah.
Here you are saying, I think that God used my depression, you know.
Well, I think that's the thing, because that those lines, they're absolutely true. You know, God is there for you. He is utterly faithful, and He is always loving you. But we can mistake that to thinking that, you know, that life with God is always a bed of roses, or that, you know, God's going to cushion our life and make it completely soft, or that having God in your I've been doing a lot of 10-pin bowling with parishioners lately, and it's like that life with God, you know, you can't lose. It's like having the bumpers put up, you know, and then you're never going to go off track. You know, the ball's never going to go in the ditch. You know, that's
But is that the real 10-pin bowling
that is
game?
No, it's not. It is not the real 10-pin bowling. If you're bowling with bumpers, you're not really 10-pin bowling. No, it's not. There's that God protects us from so much, but because He's a good Father as well, He does leave us free, and that means that we also, we become open to things going wrong, and this is where God's love is greatest, is that He's able to love us in and out of the difficult things. What is the Christian faith summarized? It's the cross. Yeah. You know, as someone once said, the church was founded on the cross, not a hug. Church is founded on the cross, not a hug. Don't worry, you'll get a big hug from Jesus, but the church is founded on the cross. That God's prime way of expressing His love for us is in suffering.
Yeah, there's no other place.
That
God would rather be.
There's no other place that God. That's beautifully put. Yeah. There is no other place that God would rather be than down in the midst of our mess, and on that cross. And because He's God and man, what holds Him to the cross isn't really the nails. It's His will to love. Because as God, could have come down off the cross in a sec. Yep. But no, He keeps Himself pinned there and dies because what He wants to say is, no matter how black or dark your life may be, I've gone even further, so that you'll know that no matter where you end up, I am there too. And I can transform that experience and turn it into real light. It's
that's good. Thanks for sharing that.
No worries.
Well, I feel like there's so many places that we could go from there. But what we've just talked about there, I think, is the crux of a lot of young people's experience, especially mental illness is such a common topic these days. Young people are very quick to, just see it in themselves, identify sadness within themselves. But if they can understand the value and the power and, like you were saying in your own experience, the shift from the cloud to, oh, Dan, you are loved. I think that's the antidote, maybe.
There's actually one detail from that I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
And it was a little prayer that would help me get through when it really started to feel unbearable. And it was, I remember walking along, it was in the city, we had to be in the city for something. And I just feel like I've got these two boulders on either shoulder. Like I'm almost like kind of walking a bit stooped, and I couldn't really hold my head up. I was just kind of staring at the footpath in front of me. I was feeling like I must have been cut a very sorry figure walking off. As I'm going along, I just remember feeling this weight. And then just as inspiration came to make this prayer, and it had to come from the Holy Spirit because I certainly didn't have the strength to make it on my own. Yeah. But it was just to say, Lord, if this depression is going to be for my good and the good of other people, and it's going to ultimately be for my benefit, then I accept it. And as soon as I said those words, I accept it, I would feel like someone else would step in under the boulder and lift with me. Not like the boulder went completely away, but I suddenly felt I wasn't alone, and that there was suddenly this ray of peace got put in there that wasn't there before. And the heart would lighten a bit. And what was feeling unbearable suddenly became bearable. It didn't become nice, but it became bearable.
Yeah.
And I found I was able to walk a bit taller in the midst of it. And then eventually it would go, it would start to weigh me back down. So I'd have to make it again. Lord, if this is what you want, I accept it. And those words were so powerful, I found. I accept it. And I say it was the Holy Spirit, because I couldn't just turn, yeah, whatever, Lord. I mean, I accept it. Forget it. No, there was that prayer, I accept it. And it was in, and that really helped me to so Lord, if I know that if I accept it, I'm going where you want me, and if I'm going where you want me, then you are going to be with me.
Yeah.
And that I'm not going to fall. I'm not going to be crushed. I may feel like I am, but ultimately I won't be.
Yeah.
And I said that once again. That was an inspiration, because I could never have done that on my own.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It'd be a difficult prayer to pray in the midst of all
Because normally I say,
Lord,
take this away from me. But it's the thing, that's where Jesus even says that in the agony in the garden. He said, take this cup away from me. Lord, Father, if you can, if it's your will, remove it. But not what I will, but what you will.
Yeah.
And I suppose without realising it, that was kind of my moment, because all my other prayers have been, Lord, take it away, take it away, take it away, take it away, until finally, ding, the moment comes. Okay, if you're not going to take it away, if this is what you want, all right. Yeah. And then when you say that, and actually now I can see in hindsight, because everyone's got 20/20 vision in hindsight. You can look back and you see, no, that's what you did want.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing for me.
Yeah, he so loved you in that.
It was the best thing for me. He was so close. Yeah. It was the best thing for me. God, it was an awful medicine, but it was the best thing for me.
Such a hard concept to get your head around.
Yeah, it's the scandal of the cross. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. All right, I think we owe you a big thanks, Father Dan, for all that you're doing, for what you shared the other morning. I think you've inspired a lot of people here at Ignite Conference, but I'm sure you'll continue to inspire many, even your next door neighbours, over and over again with big happy birthday songs.
Happy birthday songs.
It's been such a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy to be here.
Another chance some other time in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Father Dan.